You can buy a van for $8,000 and spend $40,000 keeping it on the road. I've watched it happen more times than I can count. Somebody sells the house, buys the dream van, spends 6 months on the bed platform and the solar, and then the engine lets go on a pass outside Flagstaff, and the whole dream is on a flatbed. 23 years under the hood taught me something the van channels never mention. The build doesn't matter. The chassis underneath it is the whole game. And everybody picks that part last. Today I'm counting down 10 vans that will drain your savings, 1 repair at a time, and 5 you can buy once and drive for the rest of your life. I'm going deepest on my #1 keeper, because it's the last truly simple diesel ever put in an American van. Some of you are building one out. Some are looking at a Class B camper. Some want a work van that starts cold. And some of you have a kid in the driveway working on theirs. Same list either way. Let's get into it. Number 10 is the Nissan NV200 and its twin, the Chevrolet City Express. Compact, cheap, easy to park, and on paper perfect for a build. The problem sits between the engine and the front wheels. It's a continuously variable transmission, so instead of gears, you get a steel belt running between 2 cones, designed for a delivery van carrying a few boxes. Add a water tank, 2 batteries, a bed frame, and a passenger, and you're asking that belt to drag it up a grade in August heat. My customer Rosalind's failed at 94,000 miles in the Nevada desert. It's a sealed unit, so nobody rebuilds it, and the quote came in at $4,500 on a van she paid $6,000 for. Ask what transmission a small van has, and if the answer is CVT, keep walking. That one fails all at once. The next fails in pieces, on different days, in ways that make you think you're losing your mind. Number 9 is the Dodge Grand Caravan and its cousin, the Chrysler Town & Country. Minivan camping is legitimate. I'm not knocking it. They're cheap, and stow and go leaves you a flat floor with no cutting. But there's a box under the hood called the Totally Integrated Power Module, and it runs the fuel pump, the starter, the wipers, the horn, all of it. When it fails, you get symptoms that make no sense. Won't crank in a parking lot, starts fine an hour later. Wipers running on their own at a stoplight. A retired school teacher named Marv spent $1,100 chasing it before anybody found the part, and the part is $800 more. On a van worth $4,000. Cheap to buy, expensive to trust. At least the Caravan is cheap enough to walk away from. The next costs real money and still puts a gearbox behind you I wouldn't take over a pass. Number 8 is the Ram ProMaster City. Small footprint, tall roof, and people fall for it because it looks like a shrunken European work van. The 9-speed automatic is the problem. It went into a lot of vehicles across that corporate family, and the complaints are the same everywhere. Harsh engagement, hunting between gears, and shift flare under load, which is the engine revving between shifts because the clutch pack isn't grabbing. All of it gets worse with weight, because a transmission that's marginal empty becomes a failure loaded, and it's low volume, so you're at a dealer desk, instead of the independent shop that knows you. $12,000 to buy. And a gearbox is most of that again. The next one is harder to hear, because the badge on the front spent 30 years earning the opposite reputation. Number 7 is the Honda Odyssey. And I already know some of you are typing. Hondas are reliable. Generally, yes. This one, no. The early 2000s transmission failures were widespread enough that Honda extended coverage past the normal warranty, and no manufacturer does that casually. Then the later ones brought in variable cylinder management, which shuts down half the cylinders on the highway. The rings in the dead cylinders never get worked. Oil burn climbs, and you're fouling plugs. Terry, a customer of mine, bought one for fishing trips because he'd owned 4 Accords and never had a problem. Transmission let go at $130,000, $3,800 to rebuild, on a van worth $4,000. He sold it for parts. Now, number 6 is going to hurt some feelings, and I want you to know it hurts mine too. The water-cooled Volkswagen Vanagon. This is the van in every sunset photograph, the one that made all of this a thing before anybody had a word for it. I've got a soft spot for them. But the Wasserboxer engine has a head sealing problem that isn't a maintenance item, it's a design characteristic. Most engines seal the head to the block with a gasket you replace in a weekend. This one seals the head straight against the cylinders with metal rings. Corrosion gets into the cooling passages, and the studs seize into the aluminum case. So a coolant leak that's $40 and a Saturday on anything else turns into pulling the engine $6,000 to $10,000. And people are asking $30,000 for these. Buy the poster instead. That one breaks your heart slowly. The next strands you in an afternoon, and it still has a warranty book in the glove box. Number 5 is the Ford Transit with the 3.2-liter 5-cylinder Powerstroke diesel. This one bothers me, because on paper, it's what you'd want. Diesel torque, big cargo box, Ford parts in every town. But it landed in the middle of the aggressive emissions era, and the complaint list is dominated by the diesel particulate filter. That filter traps soot and burns it off by getting extremely hot, which only happens on a long highway run. Now think about how one of these gets used. Idling overnight in a lot, 12 miles to a trailhead, sitting 3 days, 20 miles into town. It never gets hot enough, so it clogs. Then you're in limp mode doing 45 on an interstate in Wyoming, and the nearest shop with the software is 190 miles back, $4,000 for a filter. Number 4 is the Ram ProMaster, roughly 2014 through 2018, the full-size one. To be fair, the Pentastar V6 is decent, and the flat sidewalls and standing height make it the easiest van in America to build out. A sheet of plywood goes in without a cut, but two things chase them down. First, corrosion. Look at the rear arches, the rockers and the seams around the rear doors, because I'm already seeing rot on Salt State examples, and these aren't old vans yet. Guess where they'll be at 15 years. Second, electrical faults that light the dash, kill the cruise, and drop the van into reduced power for reasons that take hours to trace at 160 an hour. Wonderful for 4 years, frustrating after that. Now number 3 is one I'll catch it for, because a lot of you learned to drive in one. Number 3 is the Chevrolet Astro and its twin, the GMC Safari. I'll be honest, I like these vans. Rear-wheel drive, a 4.3-liter Vortec that's a small block with 2 cylinders missing, parts $3 at any counter. The problem is the year we're living in. Everyone is at least 20 years old, and they rust from the inside out. Rear arches, rockers, the floor under the back doors, and worst of all, the frame rails where the leaf springs mount. I've turned down 2 build quotes because I couldn't sign off on the vehicle. Then there's the 4L60E behind it, never strong, and weaker still with 1,000 pounds of build and a grade in front. $2,500 to rebuild, on a van worth $5. Buy one to haul lumber and love it. Don't buy one to live in. Number 2 is what people buy to avoid all of that, which is why it does so much damage. Number 2 is the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter with the 3.0-liter V6 diesel. The generation from roughly 2007 through 2013. This ends more of these dreams than anything on the road, precisely because it looks like the professional choice. High roof, 300,000-mile reputation, the star on the grill. What nobody mentions is what we call Black Death. Each injector sits in a well in the cylinder head with a copper seal around it. When that seal fails, combustion gases push past the injector, mix with oil and soot, and bake into a crust hard as concrete that welds the injector into the head. Catch it early, and it's a seal job. $2,500. Miss it, and the injector snaps off during removal, and you're pulling the head at $6,000 to $9,000. Add glow plugs that break off inside that head, and you have a $15,000 van that needs a specialist. Your check takes 10 seconds. Pop the hood and look for black crust around each injector. The Sprinter at least warns you with the hood open. My number 1 needs the engine pulled before anyone can tell you what's wrong, and I've watched it end 2 retirements. And number 1 on the list of vans that will bankrupt you is the Ford E350 or E450. with the 6.0-liter Powerstroke diesel. You'll see them everywhere as shuttle buses and box vans, and they're cheap for a reason. The 6.0 has a well-documented pattern of exhaust gas recirculation cooler failure, oil cooler clogging, and head bolts that stretch under boost and let the head gaskets go. In a pickup, that's already a serious bill. In a van, it's worse, because the engine sits under a doghouse between the front seats with no room around it. So a job that's awkward in an F250 turns into pulling the whole engine in an E350. Doing it properly, what people call bulletproofing, runs $6,000 to $10,000 before you've driven anywhere. Denise and Ray bought a converted 6.0 shuttle for their retirement trip. They made it to Amarillo. The bill was north of $9,000, and they sold it for scrap. The purchase price is the smallest number you'll ever pay on one. Now, before I get to the 5 I actually recommend, I want to tell you about something, because it came out of the same shop and the same conversations. My customers who live in these full-time kept asking me the same questions, and almost none of them were about engines. Where can I park overnight without somebody knocking on the window at 2 in the morning? How do I keep my power costs at 0 instead of paying for a hookup? What about mail, insurance, and a legal address when I don't have a house? I got tired of answering it one customer at a time, so I wrote it all down. It's called the Van Life Savings Manual, and the link is the first thing in the description. It's a document and not a video for a reason. Overnight parking by location type. What to say when somebody official taps on the glass. The setups that keep you invisible on a residential street. And how full-timers handle the address and paperwork. Nobody wants to scrub a 20-minute video for the one rule that applies to a lot in a town they've never been to. You want that on a page you can pull up at 9 at night with the engine already off. If you're building one, living in one, or you know somebody who is, go get it. But none of it matters if the van won't start. So let's talk about the 5 that will. Number 5 is the Toyota Sienna. And I'd look at 2011 through 2016. I know it's a minivan, and I know that's not the aesthetic. Hear me out. The 2GR-FE V6 is one of the most durable engines Toyota has ever built. It uses a timing chain instead of a belt, so no $800 service every 90,000 miles. And it's bolted to a conventional 6-speed automatic rather than anything clever. You can get all-wheel drive too, which matters the first time you're on a wet forest road at dusk. Carol, a widow who came to me for years, bought a 2013 with 110,000 miles, put a platform bed in the back, and drove it across the country twice. She's at 240,000, and her only repair has been the sliding door. So that's your check. Open and close both doors 10 times in the driveway, and if one hesitates or grinds, the cable and track is worn, about $600. 8 to 14,000 buys a good one. Number 4 looks like the opposite of sensible, and that's exactly why you can afford it. Number 4 is the Nissan NV2500 or NV3500, the full-size one with the 5.6-liter V8. This is the ugliest van sold in North America in the last 20 years, and I won't pretend otherwise. It has a snout, like somebody grafted a pickup onto a shipping container, and nobody wanted one, which is precisely why you should. Underneath is a proper ladder frame, built to carry weight and take a beating. That V8 is the same engine family as the Nissan Titan, with a strong record in fleet service where nobody babies anything. The high roof gives you real standing room from the factory. No cutting, no topper, no leak you'll chase forever. Because the resale reputation is poor, you get the whole package for $10,000 to $18,000. The downside is fuel, low teens, no way around it. But a van that drinks fuel and never strands you beats one that sips fuel and lives on a flatbed. Number 3 is the one everybody has seen and nobody has ever looked at twice. Number 3 is the Chevrolet Express and its identical twin, the GMC Savana, with the 4.8 or 6.0-liter Vortec V8. In my shop, we call these the cockroach. They will not die. Same LS-based V8 that made those old Silverados immortal, in a body-on-frame van whose design has barely changed since the 90s. and that's the advantage, not a knock. Every part is on the shelf at any auto parts store, from Maine to San Diego. Every independent mechanic has had one on a lift, and nothing under that hood needs a special computer. Some of you will remember Arthur, the masonry contractor whose Silverado I talked about a while back. He also runs a 6.0 Express, loaded with brick every working day, and he crossed 300,000 miles on the original engine. Your check is rust, specifically the brake and fuel lines running the length of the frame, because those go long before the engine. In a salt state, spend $500 on stainless lines the week you buy it, $8,000 to $15,000, and the van is solved. But if you want to stand up inside, get mid-20s on fuel, and still skip the specialist, one import earns it. Number 2 is the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter T1N. The first generation, built from 2002 through 2006, and sold here with Dodge and Freightliner badges. Yes, I'm putting a Sprinter at number 2 after spending 3 minutes warning you about Sprinters. The difference is entirely the engine. The T1N uses the 2.7-liter inline-5 diesel, built before the emissions hardware that ruined the later ones. No particulate filter to clog, no diesel exhaust fluid to freeze, no complicated exhaust gas recirculation to crack. Just a straightforward 5-cylinder returning mid-20s in a van you can stand up in. And nothing else here offers that. 300,000 miles on one is unremarkable. What kills them is rust. So look at the wheel arches, the seams around the rear doors, and the floor under the cargo area. And if it's rusty, you walk away no matter how sweet the engine sounds. 10 to 18,000. One last thing that'll save you a transmission. Mercedes called the fluid in that gearbox lifetime fluid. It is not. Service it every 60,000 miles and it'll outlast you. And my number 1, the van you buy once and drive for the rest of your life, is the Ford E350 with the 7.3-liter Powerstroke diesel, built from 1999 through 2003. Yes, the same van body I put at the top of the disaster list. Same doghouse, same frame, same seats, different engine, and that is the entire lesson of this video. The 7.3 came out of the era when Ford and International were building a diesel to a standard rather than an emissions deadline. It uses hydraulic electronic unit injection, and in plain English that means the engine makes its own injection pressure using its own engine oil, right at each injector. No 15,000 psi fuel rail waiting to fail, no particulate filter to clog, no exhaust gas recirculation cooler to crack, no diesel exhaust fluid tank to freeze in Montana in February. It's the last American diesel a competent person can fix on the side of a road. I had a client named Walter, a retired welder, who bought a 2001 E350 with a 7.3 and 210,000 miles on it. He built out the back himself with plywood and a wood stove. He's crossed the country 9 times. He's at 430,000 now, and the engine has never been opened. Not once. What's he replaced? A water pump, a set of glow plugs, an alternator, and 1 transmission rebuild. That's the whole list. Over 200,000 miles. The stigma is that they're old, slow, and loud. All 3 are true. The cabin drones at 70, and the plastics are from a different century. But it starts. Every morning, in any weather, at any altitude, and when your bed is in the back, that's the only feature that matters. So here's the honest inspection list. First, the transmission. The 4-speed automatic behind these is the weak link, not the engine. Ask when it was last rebuilt, and ask for paperwork. And if there isn't any, budget for it. A built one runs about $3,000, a fraction of a single Sprinter head job. Second, carry a spare camshaft position sensor in the glove box. Small, cheap, fails with no warning, and when it goes, it shuts the engine off and leaves you sitting. Every 7.3 owner I know keeps one in the console with a wrench next to it. Third, check the glow plug relay and watch how it starts cold, because that's where a neglected one shows itself first. Fourth, get underneath with a flashlight and look at the frame and the oil pan for rust, especially on anything that's lived through real winters. Do those 4 things, and you have a vehicle with a genuine chance of outlasting you. A clean one runs 9 to 15,000, depending on body and miles, And these are going up in value, not down. The people who understand what they are keep buying them, and they're not selling. So look at what these 5 have in common, because that's the real takeaway. Not one of them is clever. Everyone uses a conventional automatic, an engine designed for commercial duty, rather than a fuel economy rating on a window sticker, and parts you can get without an appointment. The 10 that fail share the exact opposite pattern. Complicated emissions equipment, transmissions borrowed out of lighter-duty vehicles, and electrical systems that need a dealer to interpret. Not the paint, not the roof height, not how it looks with a surfboard on top. When you're 400 miles from anyone you know and the sun is going down, the only question is whether it starts. Pick the boring one. Put what you saved into the build, or better yet, leave it in the bank where it belongs. Next week, I'm doing this same list for tow vehicles, and there's one everybody buys that I won't let my own customers keep. Subscribe so you catch it.